that, we did not interrupt anyone when you were speaking, so please don't interrupt us. And so far, it's only been speculation about these horrible things that can happen. We certainly understand the concerns of any community when something new is coming into the community, but it doesn't give them the right to start talking about a disaster that's going to happen before the fact. This is going to be a statue that's going to be placed in a location where it's impossible to see it from other locations. And that's why we invite you to come up.
From my house.
That's why we invite you to come up and you can arrange what's called a balloon test. We can elevate a balloon 35 feet into the air, and anybody can go any place in the area and try to see if they can see it. The bottom line is the statue is going to be located in an out-of-the-way location. This is a statue that have no negative impact on the neighborhood. It doesn't move, it's not illuminated, there's no sounds that emanate from it. It is just a piece of bronze that's going to sit on this plateau in the woods on his property. It's within all the bulk regulations. The variance is not required for this statue. The Shandaken zoning code, contrary to what some of the speakers said, permits the following uses: golf or country clubs, vacation resorts, hotels, motels, contractors' yards, radio, TV, or other transmission structures in the R5 district. This is much less invasive than some of those uses. And despite people's concerns and what they're claiming through speculation, the town does have mechanisms for controlling what happens at the site. If you permit Sanjay to install the statue and impose conditions, if he violates those conditions, you can shut him down. Be the same with anybody else coming for any other permit before this board, whether it's a movie theater, a restaurant, a concert hall, or anything else. If they violate the conditions, they get shut down.
How do you shut down a statue?
How do you
Shut
shut
down a pretty
it down?
You're not shutting down the structure. Yeah. The concern here is that they're saying thousands of people are going to come to this thing, or very large numbers. What we're saying is that's not the intent of Mr. Raoul. And you can't anticipate that he's going to violate conditions that you would impose, because he's not violating the zoning code at this point by applying. He has a right to make this application. Sometimes people forget that the applicant also has rights. He has a right to make this application. He had a right to apply for a building permit. How he rejected it, we have a right to come before you and state our case. But the board doesn't have the right to base a decision on speculation. And so far, there's been no evidence submitted to this board whatsoever that any of these things will happen, or anything that he's attempting to do through his application will be harmful to the community or to the environment.
Photos right there. Me, I'm a member.
Also, those are photographs of New York City, not of Shandaken. And this is a land use proceeding. You have to take into consideration not the religious aspects of the application, anything like that. Your decision is limited in scope to just making a land use and zoning decision based on the narrow facts presented to you. Thank you.
As well, right? He's obviously Sanjay's lawyer, and his interpretation of the zoning rules that we have for R5 and R3 and R1.5 is what his opinion is and what he reads into that. Also, what reads into what we do in the town of Shandaken and how these zoning codes are applied, what goes with it is how they were interpreted and applied for all the years. So just because some road scholar reads a paragraph and says, I went to Harvard and this is what it means, that doesn't really mean what it means. It means how you applied it from the time it started. So it could read something that 5 people can interpret different ways, but it's how the town applied it for all those years. And that's what you have to look at.
Excuse me, let me respond to that, because there's accusations here that I'm making statements that I haven't made. Somebody else made a statement, something I said the last week, which I did not state. And you don't need to put words in my mouth. I'm looking at the actual Shandaken code and the list of scheduled uses. That's black and white. That's not my interpretation. Those uses that I just stated to this board are in.
But also what that means, it's black and white the way you read it.
No, it's
And
not.
maybe anybody else could read it, but it also means the way this town has applied that
It's a list of,
interpretation for
it's
the
a
last
list of permitted
15 or
uses.
20
And this
years.
is not any of those uses.
And, do you live in Shandaken?
As opposed to not five.
And you're.
Yes, but she said she used to be a follower, so she.
I live closer to Woodland Valley
You asked
than the
for
other end of
You asked for
town.
proof. Got it right
Wait a
here.
minute, wait a minute.
I think you're bringing in issues about his religion, about his beliefs, that are inappropriate. This is a zoning board hearing. These are land use and zoning issues.
All right, yes, one.
I just want to be clear, does everyone see that this is the statute we're talking about?
No, we haven't. Could you please hold it up? so we
Yeah,
can see
because
it?
it's really important. You see? You see that one in the middle?
Yeah.
Okay, this is what we're talking about, so you guys know.
Yeah, take it up to the camera.
Yeah, I just want, because if you think about it in your mind, this is what it is.
Yeah.
See?
Stay away.
Can I say something? You said, you guys have me.
Or five. Church or any place of worship laws at least not allowed.
Right.
Cultural things are including institutions for the public use is not allowed.
Yes,
I
sir?
just, I need to add as well, she's pointing out activities in
I
making those
pointed out
Queens.
the
Not all,
statutes.
I know, but I'm saying that, the nice little collage there. Some of those are actually not even in Queens, there's a Rockland State Park Marathon, these are all permitted.
Only
These
one,
have- these
only
have-
one.
These have all gone to the city for permits, and we respect that here. I respect that. There's businesses there. We're not proposing to start a business, so I'm just pointing out the obvious.
Yeah. Can I say one thing?
He was saying that he was willing to work with us, with the Woodland Valley Association. But that, we were willing also before we realized that everything he was saying, he was contradicting himself, and we didn't know what was going on. He said no members, then there are members. He said it wasn't religious, now it's religious. He said, you know, that like I said before, he said that the Iceland, when it was proposed to Iceland, that it wasn't rejected, we found out it was rejected. There were so many things that we were starting to lose trust, and we couldn't work with him anymore, so that's why we stopped working with him.
Can I just say one quick thing, because one of the objections to what was said here by Sanjay's lawyer was that, oh, this is all speculation and you can't say what's gonna happen. Well, one case in point is in Malta. They put up one of these monumental statues in Malta, and there's a newspaper article I can provide anybody who wants to see. I sent it to you. Okay, so they put up the statue, everything's fine and dandy. Then the disciples come and congregate, and they put up all these decorations and placards, and they were made to remove all the placards and decorations for public safety reasons.
Where's this Malta?
This is Malta.
The island
And there's
of
an
Malta?
article, Malta, yeah.
The island of
The island of
Malta.
Malta. And there's a newspaper article I can provide, there's a big article on how the disciples came later on, and they put these placards and created a public hazard, and they were made to take down. So it's not mere speculation. And we who have been involved in this group for a total of 30 years know what it's all about. It's all about publicity, publicity, and more publicity for Sri Chinmoy. And if you think that one or two or three people are going to visit this shrine, you're nuts. Who believes that?
I have that article,
There's the article right there.
If you'd like to see it, here's the article. You want this, that's the article from Malta?
It was a 6-foot statue that the city actually commissioned from the meditation group based in Europe. That said, it's like based on site plan review, I'm amenable to conditions. It's like people have Airbnbs where 3, 4, 5 people go, and you could count, maybe there's 200 times 5 people per night. There's traffic already in the valley. There's a campground at the end. There's Menla, which actually was founded in June 2002.
No.
No, it's been there forever.
No, you can even look online. It's like,
It was a camp
the-
prior to that.
yeah, but the Thurmans turned it into a religiously oriented center in 2002. So if conditions are imposed that we can have 3 people on the property at any one time, that's fine. 4 people, 5 people, it doesn't matter. It's like those conditions are what we're coming to the board for. That's it.
Well, let me ask you, are you looking at this shrine as a place of religious worship for yourself?
For myself and my parents, who are not actually members of the group. But it's not a religious shrine. In Hinduism, we believe in icons. We believe in crosses. We believe in mangers. If I had 50 Picassos in my house, it doesn't mean my house is a museum.
But if you, in your belief system, sees this as a place of religious worship, why would not others in your belief system see it as a place of religious worship?
It's a religiously themed art. It's not a shrine. It's not a place of worship. It's as though you did a Mother Mary balloon. It's like you can say that that's a religious icon, but there hasn't been a statue like this before. It isn't like there's a history of these statues being built, you know, for the purpose of Sri Chinmoy students coming. There are 25 statues all around the world, most of which are in public places. They're not shrines, they're not places of worship. They were commissioned by cities. They're considered pieces of art. And the speculation towards Sri Chinmoy and his control over his followers, he's not alive. He's dead. And so this idea of mind control, I'm not really sure where that comes in. We're coming here to get a clear interpretation and possibly a clear set of rules. So I would love for you guys to come up there and actually see the site.
Sanjay? Can I ask you a question, Sanjay?
Before you leave, I'd just like to make one. My interpretation here has absolutely nothing to do with your religious beliefs.
Oh, I know.
I value your First Amendment rights as well as I value my First Amendment rights. So I just want to make that
It's been
clear.
abundantly
People
clear.
here, it's not about religion.
Yeah,
We're interpreting.
from everyone, from Howie, from his office, it's been abundantly clear to me, despite what people have said, that this is not about race, this is not about religion, this is not about anything other than perhaps freedom of expression.
For me, it's about community character,
Yeah.
frankly.
Yeah.
I just want to say that the reason that we're here at the ZBA is I spoke with the town attorney, and he advised me that a proper procedure would be, if I rejected the application, to send it to the ZBA for an interpretation as to whether it fits into this category of an art gallery, museum, whatever. So that's basically how we got here. It wasn't for a variance. And I did speak with the chair of the planning board about this issue back when I first started to learn about it. And in fact, there was no application presented to the zoning office until many months after I was appointed. So there was no information beforehand for anyone to make a determination. We weren't sure how tall it was going to be. And so anyway, I spoke with the chair of the planning board, and he said the first thing I would do, Howie, if I get it, I would send it right to the ZBA.
We appreciated that. And in the letter that Howie gave us, it said that the project was out of character and it was in an environmentally sensitive area. There was no mention of whether this was going to be religious or museum or school theme. That wasn't in the letter. And so we don't consider that necessarily to be the issue at hand because it wasn't in the official letter. The official letter talked about whether this was of character or not. There's a Zen Mountain Monastery, there's the Menla Mountain Retreat Mountain. So the idea of having something that's a structure, that's an accessory structure on a property that's owned by a foundation and permitted use seemed to me, why we were here. Not because this was going to be determined to be a museum or a library or an art gallery.
And how could it not? It's almost 40 feet tall. And how many feet wide, how many feet deep?
I just have a really quick question of Sanjay. Sanjay, did people from the Sri Chinmoy community donate to your statue?
Is that relevant? Is it
Because I know many people have. Now, if you donate to something, then you're gonna want to see it.
So I've made a lot of movies, and I've gotten donations from a lot of people for those movies, and they do get opportunities to see it. I'm not saying that nobody's going to want to see it, but one of the things that I wanted to talk to with the community association initially, and one of the reasons why we want to go in front of the site review is like, what is going to be the permitted attendance? People, and I'm not saying that this has come from anyone in this room or this board, but people have tended to speculate that the group is unruly, perhaps counterculture, perhaps counter to what the norms would be. But I mean, many people are like me, professionals. We've had careers. We still have careers. We try to be of service. People listen. I'm not an insignificant member of the group. I've been a part of the group for 25 years. And so I can, I can say that, people do respect what I do in the group in terms of the projects that I've done. And I don't see any issue in people being, for lack of a better word, obeying town regulations as they're set by the site review.
But this flipped from the center to your possession.
Yeah, when did it go from Iceland to the Sri
One at a time, please. So I have another question. You're completely willing to comply with the permit process and place some sort of adjudication on how many people can attend, but are we going to control the people back in Jamaica who want to charter a bus and bring 50 people up and suddenly show up on your doorstep? What would you say to those people once they show up on your doorstep? And how can you control anybody with an impulse to do that?
That's a good question. Number one, that bus wouldn't leave Jamaica without my permission to begin with. People down there, number two, if they come,
They need your permission to leave Jamaica?
No,
That's a kind of call.
No, I'm not saying it in terms of that. I'm not saying that I have some type of control over them. But that's a valid question. It's like, I can put up a gigantic gate. If you come to the property, you'll see that it's an incredibly steep hike to go all the way to the top. It's not going to rain
I
apart.
went to the property today, I couldn't even make it all the way to the top, and I'm questioning how you're going to make it to the top, right?
You can see my truck. I've got a truck that makes it all the way to the top.
So that last
It
inclination.
makes it all the way to the top.
Okay, well, that's
Kind of wrap this up.
We're waiting in the back.
It's close to.
Come on, so we can hear you.
What would it be heard?
My name is Karen Esposito. I've been a member, lived in Woodland Valley for 30 years. My one question is, I know he keeps talking that you won't see it from anywhere, but I think that property is 30 acres. What if he decides, to clear the land and then all of a sudden it's visible?
I would need a permit to do
Yeah,
that.
he's not allowed to clear the land.
You had something to say?
Kathy?
I apologize for introducing the language of variance, and if this is a decision by the zoning enforcement officer that this was not, application was not ready to go to the planning board, it could be examined on not only the categories of whether it's cultural, but also does this statute count as an accessory structure, especially if it's much, much taller than a one-story building on the site, a home on the site, and 121 tons.
That's not the weight, that's the weight of the statue of Japan, which was built in the 10th century.
So if it is a very large, very weighty statute, does it qualify as an accessory structure?
Well, basically the question that we have.
Does the tail wag the
is
dog is what you're saying, Kathy?
Basically the question we have to decide tonight is do we agree with Howard or not?
Yes.
We're not deciding if it's an auxiliary structure, we're not deciding if it's, our basic question is do we agree with Howard on the denial of the permit?
Thank you.
So I'd like a clarification from Howard. You would just deny the building permit based on fact. You're not suggesting that these people go in front of the planning board for a...
I didn't suggest that, no.
You just denied
I was inquiring the path to go. That's why I spoke to the town attorney. But I rejected it because I felt that the R5 is supposed to represent the most environmentally sensitive area in our town. And large-scale residential projects should be encouraged. And I feel that this statute is so outside that parameter that I felt I had to reject it.
I agree.
Okay, thank you. Ma'am?
Yes, I'd like to speak to the situation.
Please come forward.
Thank you. I'm speaking on my own behalf. I'm Madeline Peel. I'm a 15-year resident with my husband, Jonathan Peel, of the Woodland Valley. And I'm speaking on behalf of one of our neighbors who's a 40-year member who couldn't be here tonight. Her name is Pippa Merrick. This will take less than 2 minutes altogether.
a 40-year member
Of the Woodland Valley community.
Okay.
Pippa Merrick, as a 40-year resident of the Woodland Valley,
This is Pippa's words. "I have witnessed many crazy ideas proposed in the valley. Most of these were for selfish personal gain at the detriment of our neighbors. Since zoning laws were upheld, those various schemes fizzled. We live in a community where residents enjoy the natural beauty and peace of this historic valley. I am disturbed that this structure and repercussions from the structure could threaten these values. However, I have confidence that this very restrictive R5 zoning designation will protect us from yet another ambitious plan. Thank you, Pippa Merrick of 30 Panther Kill Road," from Phoenicia. My husband and I have a statement as well. "Dear Zoning Board of Appeals members, we write to you as residents of 15 years of the Woodland Valley, 118 Muddy Brook Road, to urge you to reject the appeal by Sanjay Rahal, representing Illumine Service Foundation, Inc., from the decision of the Zoning Board rejecting the application to place a large structure, a 33-foot high head on a 6-foot high base, on the property he controls at 822 Woodland Valley Road in Phoenicia, New York, in the town of Shandaken. First, the proposed use of the land is not among the uses that the R5 regulation permits, which are large-scale residences, recreation, and conservation. Secondly, the presence of this massive structure would subject the region to uses that are contrary to R5 and its peaceful, ecologically sensitive character. John Burroughs, the naturalist, we were told by his granddaughter, Joan Burroughs, called the Woodland Valley the back door to the Catskills. The Woodland Valley trailheads lead to Giant Ledge, Slide Mountain, and Panther Mountain. The structure will be placed on Panther Mountain, a massive bronze likeness of a head, which is 33 feet high. It will rest on a 6-foot high base. The construction of such an object clearly threatens the geological and environmental integrity of the slope on which it would stand, as well as the approximately half-mile road leading to it from the Woodland Valley Road. This site is likely to become a destination bringing visitors to the location. Although Mr. Raoul says that he will limit the visits to the site, it is difficult to see how he can enforce such a limitation. So heavy traffic on the 5-mile narrow, dead-end Woodland Valley Road can be expected. In the absence of sanitation facilities, this human traffic would also create health and environmental hazards, as well as public safety issues and costs. Seasonally, the absence of foliage would make the structure a highly visible and intrusive presence in the forest landscape throughout the valley and of the forever wild Catskill Mountain Park, which it abuts. For all these reasons, we respectfully urge you to uphold the decision of the Zoning Board, and we thank you for your attention to this matter. Sincerely, Madeline and Jonathan Peel. Thank you. Should I? Sure.
I just have a question.
Well said, well said.
In the code, nonprofit membership organizations are allowed in the R5 zoning district. Menla is one of those types of organizations, a not-for-profit organization. What if we were here today and there was no statute? Sanjay was just asking to open up a nonprofit facility for visitors from his group of people who are interested in what he's interested in.
Totally different argument.
That's a different.
Now, so is it, what is it about the statute?
This
Statute.
Basically, the decision we're going to make is, do we agree with Howie denying permit? We're not going to decide if it's allowable, it's not allowable, if it's an auxiliary structure, if it's whatever, non-religious, religious, nonprofit, or whatever. Our decision tonight is, do we agree with Howie or don't we agree with Howie?
With respect to what, just to clarify what the decision is going to be?
The application that you've submitted is denial of permit.
Right.
Okay, that's the decision that we have to make tonight.
To answer your question, the basis for my decision is the potential for an attractive nuisance that the statute creates. Also, I think you're reading from the same zoning code I'm reading, and it says under R5, church or other place of worship, including meeting hall and other similar facilities, is not allowed in R5. Reading down, cultural facilities, library, art gallery, museums, etc., institutions, and philanthropic uses are not allowed in R5. So it's really a question of interpretation as to what this thing is. And as our speakers have amply pointed out tonight, this statute is many things to many people.
It But you don't consider this to be a nonprofit membership club, just like
Had nothing to do
MS.
with it.
That's off the table.
And why is that on the table? Just,
Pardon?
I think we're discussing the fact that we've got a building permit application to vote upon.
Correct.
And we're also looking at, as Mark pointed out, what uses are permitted versus prohibited in the R5.
And that gets to the validation of Howie's decision.
And we've had any number of interpretations on what the statute could be, most of which seem to fall into the prohibited side of the page.
We can't see. We can't see. Do you see it?
Any other discussion?
I see it as a potential Roswell.
Excuse me?
I see it as a potentially like a Roswell.
Unidentified flying objects.
How would you
You want
stop
to close, you want to close the hearing and make a decision, or?
Sure.
Okay, does anybody else have anything to say?
Okay.
Dakin wants to speak, but just for clarification, his property, the bottom part of the property is R3, and most of the property up is R5, and the double wide house is on the R3 piece. So I don't know if that has anything to do with the necessity structure to the house.
No, the actual structure in question is an R5, so we have to deal with an R5.
Yeah, well, but I just wanted to clarify that
Understood.
his house is in the R3. The
Understood.
line goes right through the property, and then where the statue is going to be R5.
Okay, I think David.
I'd just like to reiterate that throw away all the fears of religion, race, any of the problematic things. If this was a non-objective sculpture, or objective, but of this scale, in that site, I would still be, being a sculptor, I would still be against it.